In the very first episode, we learned that drilling for oil and wildlife preserves is not a good thing. The Planeteers were forced to clean up animals and the land that the oil spilled on. What the episode failed to mention was that people actually stewarded these lands before we made them preserves. To modernize this episode, I'm going to talk about the indigenous people that live in the Arctic National Wildlife Preserve and the battle that they've been fighting for almost 40 years now to protect that land. To orient us, this is where the Arctic National Wildlife Reserve is, up at the northern part of Alaska. But as I mentioned before in my first episode, the Exxon Valdez oil spill hit the southern part of Alaska in 1989, and that's why that episode kind of resonated at the time. In 1960, President Eisenhower made this a reserve, and then in 1980, Carter expanded some of the territories. Things changed in 2017. Republicans passed a tax reform, and to plug budget shortfalls, they opened up the Arctic to drilling. Their assumption is that they would recoup the money that they would be losing from these tax cuts by leasing out the land to oil companies. Mind you, this shortcoming is in the billions of dollars. This tax reform really benefited the wealthy. And yes, this says 2026. Congress is voting to extend this reform, actually in a couple of weeks here, around Memorial Day. So that's also why this is really current. So in this tax reform, it said that the government would hold at least two bids, for oil companies to lease out the land. The first one was in 2021, and the government received 3 bids totaling about $15 million, much shorter than the billions that they needed to plug the hole. Eventually, President Biden canceled those leases when he became elected, and then, required by this law, there was another bidding process that happened in 2025, and the government received no bids. There are a couple reasons for this failure. One is just politics. It's risky to enter a lease with the government when an administration can come in and just cancel it. Second, the destruction of wildlife reserves and the environment is also very risky for a brand or a company. And third is that the indigenous people that have lived on this land for thousands of years have fought this for decades and continue to fight this to this day. The Gwich'in people have lived there for thousands of years. They steward the porcupine caribou migration, which are these guys back here. 85% of their diet comes from the caribou. This fight for the Gwich'in people isn't necessarily to drill or not to drill. For them, it's something a little different. It's about land sovereignty. They have stewarded the space for thousands of years, and now the U.S. government wants to break it apart and sell it to drill oil and disrupt their complete way of life, more so than it already is. So that's one modern story about the politics behind oil drilling. In the link in my bio, you'll find resources for more information. There's a great podcast by Threshold Media on the Gwich'in people, as well as a documentary by Al Jazeera. You'll also find the process for the upcoming request for comments from the public on the new leasing program in the Arctic National Wildlife Reserve. And just pay attention to that upcoming vote to extend the 2017 tax code. Our next episode is one that's haunted me for 40 years at this point, so I'm really excited to get into it. Until then.